Anthony Hartwig here with another YSN edition of Hot Corner, and I'm joined by this edition's special guest, Keeli Milligan. Keeli, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And we start all of our guests like this. We cover so many high school sports at YSN. I'm wondering how your high school experience was, and what are some of your fond memories of your high school career?
High school was a blast for me, honestly. I mean, it's because select ball is so I guess challenging, and it's so hard. It's almost like a job because you have to be recruited, things like that. So high school was more of a time for me not to slack off, but to let go and have a little bit more fun while I played. So it was always fun for me, especially getting to represent my hometown. I love where I'm from, so I really enjoyed it.
What do you think were some aspects of your high school that you kind of missed as you went on into your the big stage of college softball?
There's a lot more. So in college softball, there's a lot more political correctness, I guess. A lot more standards you have to meet. Because high school softball, it's like whatever, just walk into the park with wearing flip flops, sometimes no shoes, whatever. It doesn't. Maybe that's just Powder High School. I'm not sure. That could just be us, but definitely how loose things were. In college, it's so I don't want to say uptight, but I mean, a good coach will have it ran properly. So it's a lot more, there's a lot more rules and expectations in college that you didn't have in high school.
You said you got to play in your hometown. Did you ever kind of miss playing on those community fields and the high school style fields that kind of have that nostalgia to them?
Oh, absolutely. That's one of the main things that I miss about it is it's such a small town and I get to go around this area and play in front of all of my family. Like all my family gets to be there. I had at least 5 or 6 people from my family in every single game. So, I mean, that was fun. I loved the tiny little fields. You know what I mean? Kind of like rural Texas. So I liked that a lot.
You grew up in a different kind of recruiting world since the rule change a couple years ago. What was your recruiting process like? I knew back then you could get recruited pretty early in the process. So what was your recruiting process like?
A little difficult, I guess. And it's actually funny because I was kind of late in the recruiting process. So I was actually the last one in the 2015 class that was committed in my class. I guess as far as me, Riley, Sam Chow, Caitlin Alderink, I was the last one left. Um, but I mean, it's a lot of last minute rushing as far as my recruiting process went. I was playing on a little team in Beaumont, a little team out of Nederland. And finally someone was like, hey, you need to, if your dreams are to go play college ball, you need to get out of here and go to Houston and get on a team that's going to get you seen. So, I mean, I headed out to a tryout, made it, and within a couple of months, I was getting looked at by schools, and I was like, wow. Before that team, the dream was to just go, and nothing wrong with this, of course, but to just go to a junior college and hopefully work hard enough that I could transfer to a bigger school. But after I went, I got out of this area, I guess, and it's nothing against this area, it's just how small it is. After I got out of this area and made my way to Houston and the bigger cities, I realized that like the junior college route was great for some people, but I could start at a big school. So the dream kind of shifted very quick, and all of a sudden I was committed.
Was the,
It was so fast.
was there a moment in that time where maybe you had a really good weekend or you were playing really well that you kind of realized in yourself that all of a sudden D1 SEC college softball was a tangible dream at that moment?
I always thought I was good. There was never, I mean, I don't know if that sounds rude or whatever, but I mean, I always thought I was decent. So there was never really a moment where I was like, wow, I could really do, I take that back. There wasn't one specific moment, but I think it's when I went to Houston and I was competing with the girls in the big pond and not the little pond. You know what I mean? When I was hanging with them and more than them, that I was like, I can do this, they're going to a big school. I feel like I can outplay them. I can go to a big school too. It's probably around that time that I went to Houston.
What was it about A&M that drew you there and made you want to join that program and sign to the dotted line with them?
It's just the huge following A&M has. Honestly, sorry if you see my cat back here being annoying, but his little bells jingling and stuff. But So, I mean, it was just a huge following. Like, they bring you to Midnight Yell, and it's really hard not to be like, wow, oh my gosh, it's Midnight Yell. And like, I don't know if you've ever been to an A&M football game, but oh my goodness, it's crazy, you know? And also it's the thing of, I'm such a big like Texas girl. Like, I mean, grew up here, whatever, and it wasn't that far. So it was a Texas school. I always wanted to play for Texas, and not for Texas, but I always wanted to play in Texas. But and my parents could come to all my games and stuff, so that was a big deal.
Got to be careful with that Texas.
I know, God.
You know, what was your first interactions with Coach Evans? And I know she's one of the most respected coaches in the nation. What was kind of your first interactions with her?
I mean, I was emailing her, and I decided to go to a camp. I think, God, this was so long ago. Right. Obviously, she had seen me play a few times because I was like, hey, I'm going to be at these fields, whatever, blah, blah, blah. She might stop by for a couple little at-bats. I mean, I feel like it wasn't particularly special. It was a lot like what everyone else's experience was. But then I would go to a camp, and she was like, hey, we're interested, like, come on a visit, whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, yeah, I'll come on a visit, of course. Went on a visit, and it was kind of just all downhill from there. And she came and watched me, I think, one more, or Coach Jackson, actually. Coach Jackson came and watched me one more time. Coach Evans was somewhere else, and I was just set. I mean, I feel like my recruiting process as far as that goes was pretty standard. You know, there was nothing crazy going on. It was pretty standard as far as recruiting goes.
If you had to kind of describe Coach Evans and the way that she runs her program and maybe define the culture of Texas A&M softball, what would you say it was?
That's a hard question, huh? Tight-knit, definitely tight-knit. Tradition. A lot of traditions that go into it. They do things the way they do things.
You're one of the first guests we've had that went through the transfer process from Texas A&M to ULL. Give us an insight on what the transfer process was like for you and what kind of made you choose ULL as your next, stopping point.
The transfer process for me, I guess, was just probably what it is for a lot of people. I don't think my experience was necessarily special. I don't think a lot of my softball experiences were particularly special from a lot of other people's, but it was very difficult. Like, it was hard. Just wondering if I'm making the right decision, wondering if I'm letting tons of people down, if people hate me, if if I'm going to find a place that is a better fit, that is exactly what I'm looking for, where I can really thrive my senior year. So, I mean, that was hard, of course, but I knew deep down that I was making the right decision, because if I was wanting to make that decision, I know how I am. I'm going to do it. So, I mean, it was just, that was hard, but very happy with my decision. Would definitely go back and do it again. And, I mean, I picked UL because I have faith in Coach Glasgow. Like, I have faith in that coach. I believe in what he's doing. Love him and his family. Also, UL is just the type of program, like, when I think of UL softball, I think of, like, gritty, tough girls who maybe get overlooked a little bit but are going to come to your place and give it hell. And I've always wanted to play for a program like that. So, I mean, that's a huge reason why I picked it. Coach Glasgow is only going to exacerbate that kind of program. And also, it's close to my house. I only live like hour 45 minutes from there.
Coach Glasgow, one of the strongest personalities in softball. What I know you only got to spend 1 year with him, but what were some of your favorite memories of Coach Glasgow and working with him?
Oh, he's just, I don't think people realize how funny Coach Glasgow is, like, just in general, just some of the stuff he says. He's just like, like, he's trying to explain a drill, and he'll just be like, you know what? He's just like having a hard time explaining it, but I say that, but he really gets his point across super well. He's just a super great coach. I mean, just so many moments that he made special. Like, we were supposed to, on draft night, okay, we were supposed to go to eat at Moe's or something. I mean, we were in the middle of, like, nowhere. We were at, like, somewhere in North Carolina. I really can't even pronounce the name. I have no clue. And he was like, no, let's get in the bus and let's go eat somewhere else. So we went to a really nice steakhouse, and he kind of made that moment special for me. because I think he thought there was a good possibility I would get drafted. I'm not sure if that's even a thing, but I don't even know if that's for sure what he did, but it felt like it, and I like to believe that's what he did. So just he's just so funny, and just his moments where he just wants so badly for you to do well, and you can tell that he's just like, he wants so bad for you to be successful, not even for his program so y'all can win, of course, but for you as a person to succeed, not only in softball but in your life afterwards. And that's just so evident to me.
The other thing about Lafayette that's pretty unique is the atmosphere that they bring to that softball stadium, and the support that program gets. Talk about that field and that atmosphere and what it was like kind of lacing up in that.
There's no place in this country to play like Lafayette, like at that stadium. I mean, it's the fans, there's tons of them constantly. Like, I mean, just the sheer number of them, they're always there, and they are not scared to talk to you and say stuff to you. They are not scared at all. They've got little cheers and chants that they do for every single player. I mean, playing a midweek in any other stadium would feel like exactly like that, a midweek. Playing a midweek at Yvette Giroux Field felt like maybe you're playing in a regional. Like, it was every single game was that feel. Every single game, it didn't matter who you were playing, was the same type of nerves and energy. They didn't care if you were playing the number one team in the country, and they didn't care if you were playing the worst team in conference. They didn't care. It always was the same energy.
Did you ever play there as Texas A&M Aggie? Did you ever
Yeah,
play? Yeah.
I did. I played there my freshman year in a regional, actually. It was a really crazy regional. So, but yeah, I did. And that was honestly one of the toughest, most heartbreaking games I've ever played in my life, was losing to them. But wow, I mean, it was still like people like can only think about moments like that. And even on the losing end, people can only hope that they can be in a part of a game like that one day. And that was crazy.
When you went to ULL, did you ever think back on that moment and think, I'm glad that I'm on the right side of this crowd now instead of the wrong side of it?
Yes. It is so hard to play that. I don't know how people go there. I don't know that we lost. We lost there one time when I played there my senior year, I think. But I don't know how people go there and beat us. Like, you got to be running on all cylinders that day to come there and beat us and be a tough-minded team that day, because it's hard. Like, they're tough to play for them, and they're not rude at all, but they're loud. Like, they're loud. They do not mind telling you that their players are better than you, and we believe it too. But it doesn't matter who you are. We believe we're better than you. But they don't mind telling you that, and it's like so annoying when you're not on the team. You're like, God, shut up. But then when you're there, you're like, louder, come on.
You said it. ULL always had this kind of swagger where it's not arrogance to the point, but it's almost like, we know we're better than you and we're going to prove it. Did you guys kind of exude that as a team, that confidence, that swagger that you guys had?
I felt like we did. I felt like it didn't matter where we walked into, what field, it didn't matter. I felt like the other team knew we were there, like pregame, anything. And there were several times where, and I can't even think of who the team was, but there were several times where we had the game won walking into the park, and you could just tell, like, you just knew it. Of course, we had to show up and play still, and we could get beat on any given day, but just something about the energy that we had being UL and that kind of team, you know what I mean? Like, we're a Sunbelt team, but I don't feel like we're a Sunbelt team. I feel like we play above and beyond that, you know what I mean? So maybe we get classified a little bit in with our conference, but I don't care if we're playing an SEC team, a Pac-12 team, a Big 12 team. It does not matter at all. Like, we can beat you on any given day, and I feel like teams know that.
I asked you to describe the program at Texas A&M. Now I'm going to ask you to describe what the program and what the atmosphere of the program is like down at Lafayette.
Sisterhood, number one. Sisterhood is the first thing that comes to mind. Like, it doesn't matter if you made me mad the previous day, someone else on the other team better not have a word to say to you, because I've got your back. Grit, a huge one. Toughness. Those are the three main things that come to mind: grit, toughness, and sisterhood. And I think those are two of and also expectations to win. It's a winning culture. It's a winning program. The fans expect you to win. The coaches expect you to win. Your sisters expect you to win. Your families expect you to win. Every single person there expects you to win. And it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if Florida came to you and they're on a winning streak. It doesn't matter who it is. If they come to you or if UL is playing them that day, you're expecting to win. So, I mean, I have nothing but great things to say about that program. And it molded me into a much tougher, not only ball player, but woman in general.
What can you say about that winning culture? I mean, some teams might have been a little bit more talented than you, but you guys had that winning culture where you expected to win all the time, as you said. How much did that winning culture kind of help the program?
I can't even I can't even begin to say how much that winning culture helps you it fuels the fire, that's all it is. It's just fuel on the fire. But Coach Glasgow does a great job. And not only Coach Glasgow, but before him, Coach Lateef did a really good job. Obviously, I mean, I can't even say he didn't. Like, he obviously did a really good job of recruiting extremely talented girls that can compete. So I always felt like, honestly, if that other team had a great pitcher, we had an equal. They had a great hitter, so did we. They had a slapper who was speedy, so did we. Like, it didn't matter. Like, I felt like we could always compete. We always had the talent to compete, but we were in that mindset that we were going to win. And things fell off a little bit at the end. They did. They fell off a little bit at the end, and I felt like we lost sight of who we were. But overall, it was that mindset is huge, because you can be talented all you want, but if you have no toughness, then you're not going to take it all the way. We lack toughness at the end, but for most of the part during the season, I think we had a lot of it.
Softball is such a mentally straining sport. You got to come back from a lot of failure. What kind of things did you do during maybe the down parts of your career to mentally stay strong and to mentally kind of keep positive?
I fell back really hard on my family. There's nothing that would make me feel better than when I was struggling. Like, all I wanted to do was come home for a weekend. So I would just be able to come home and like regroup. So I think that was part of what kept me grounded, is for sure being able to be with them. They're the most important people in my life. And coming home after, maybe on, like, because usually it was Mondays was our off days. I can't hardly remember at UL for some reason. I feel like we had no off days hardly. I know we did, but I stayed there a lot more. You know what I mean? I didn't go home a whole lot. But at A&M, we had Mondays were off. And so on Monday, I really liked to that was my day. I did nothing. Like, went to class, or if I could manage it, I went home and I spent some time with my family if I was struggling.
Gave it a perfect segue. I want to give you the time to kind of talk about your support system and your family and what they've done for you throughout your whole career and how much they mean to you.
Oh my gosh. So, I mean, it's just me and my mom and dad as far as like right here, immediate family. So I have no siblings, but I mean, softball for me has been a whole family thing. I remember my grandma bringing me to games, my Aunt Carrie bringing me to games, maybe an uncle here or there. Like, it was just, played with my cousin growing up. It was always a family ordeal. And I mean, it hasn't stopped me in that. I still love talking to my parents about family. Like, this past season when UL is playing, we love nothing more than to get on and listen to them and cheer for them. Like, it still brings us together. It's a bonding point for us. It's definitely a bonding point for us. But I don't think I could have done anything without them. Like, I don't think I could have done anything I ever did in my career without them pushing me.
The running joke in the softball world is the softball dad. So what was your kind of softball relationship with your dad, and what was that kind of like?
I think a little bit different. I don't think I had a typical softball dad. So my dad never really coached me or anything. And his whole thing, like, he didn't have a whole lot of pointers. I don't think he played baseball or anything. So his his only thing he could ever say to me was like, keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. And I'm just like, dude, what do you want? What else do you have? Anything else to tell me besides keep your hands up? So that's all he could ever say. But I mean, he never really, just every once in a while, okay, like anyone else, we had a little knockdown drag out. But besides that, he would never he knew that I was already feeling bad. I'm super hard on myself. He knew I was already feeling bad, and he never went out of his way to just dig at that hole more, like he never tried to make me feel worse. He always tried to make me feel better, or he knew when I didn't need to talk about it and we could just go out to eat after a game and not talk about softball, you know what I mean? Like he knew when to do that. So I think I had a really supportive dad.
What was your favorite post game meal? You said eat after a game. So after a tough game, what's your favorite kind of post game snack?
Well, I'm usually hot and sweaty, so I go and I don't want to eat, but then like halfway through, so I had this like problem that I wouldn't want to eat after a game, and then it's like midnight. I'm like, God, I'm hungry. Like I need to go get something, and there was like nothing open in Lafayette, like late at night, and at A&M there was, but in Lafayette there was no food. So I ate like a lot of Raisin Canes, honestly. But there was nothing. I don't know, but I mean, we went to this little pizza place a whole lot in Lafayette that was really good, and I'd wait like an hour. We were there for like 2.5 hours always because I had to wait to eat. But at A&M, I don't really remember. We kind of went everywhere. Like there was never. Well, what is that place again? We went to Cane's because sometimes if we won by 6 or more, you'd get like a free thing and you could go eat for free. So we did that a good amount. But I mean, sometimes my parents, it was further than Lafayette, so sometimes my parents had to just like haul butt back home. So that's kind of what we did.
Was there any on the road places that were like traditions where you guys got to go on the road that you kind of liked?
Not really. No, not really. Like we went so many different places. There were so you really, and honestly in college you rarely visit the same place twice. So there really wasn't a place where I was just like, wow, this is awesome. I mean, of course you go to like certain places like Knoxville is really cool. They have a really nice downtown. I can't remember. They kind of run together, but a lot of these college places have like, especially the SEC, have really cool like downtown areas, a ton of food. Remember one time, I have no clue where we were, but we got on like a tram. We might have been South Carolina or something, but we got on like this kind of like train thing or bus that was like taking us around, and everyone was jumping off to go eat at different places. It was super cool, but there's not really a place where I'm just like, oh, this is the place. Love this, you know?
You did get to spend some time in the MPF with the USSSA Pride. What was that experience like, being able to call yourself a professional athlete? I know maybe growing up, it wasn't a tangible goal for a softball player to be a professional. So what was it like putting on that uniform and getting to call yourself a professional?
Surreal. It was crazy. It really was. But I mean, something about still my first college games was still more. But that was a crazy moment where I was like, I did it, you know? But even now, it's so crazy because that moment was awesome and playing professional was awesome. But recently in my life, like within these past 2 months, I'm done playing. Like I don't play softball anymore, okay? But I'm okay with that. Like so recently in these past few months, I've definitely been at a point in my life where I'm like, okay, all this hard work like that I put into softball, it wasn't to be pro. All this hard work is now kind of culminating right now in my life. So I'm starting to finally see like think the benefits of that happen right now. But in that moment I was like, this is awesome. Like I'm getting paid to play. I'm just an athlete. You know what I mean? Like that's all I was. And it was a really cool moment.
Well, now you get to take all those accomplishments and kind of put them into the next generation of softball players. I know you work with a lot of younger players and you get to put your kind of experiences back in the game. What's that experience been like for you in the last couple of months of being able to work with people?
It has taken the pain of not being a ball player myself and completely erased it. Like it's of course every once in a while I still because I was always dreaded the day I was like, God, I'm not gonna be able to handle when I don't play ball anymore. But every once in a while, I think it's super normal how I feel now. Every once in a while I get that pang. I'm like, God, I wish I was suiting up today. You know, like this morning I felt that I was like, man, there's nothing that I was just thinking about game day and like suiting up and putting on my cleats and everything. But I mean, giving back, especially not just to kids in general, but the kids in my area and giving them opportunities that I might not have had growing up has been amazing. And it's honestly, I feel like I'm competing now. I'm competing against myself every day because I'm trying to book more and more lessons. I'm trying to do this better. I'm trying to get this kid better. So I'm kind of taking what they're doing and putting it within myself. And I still feel like I'm competing every single day, you know? So, I mean, I'm very, very busy now. Like I went from having probably a couple months ago, I had like 5 lessons. Now this week I've already given 3 lessons this morning. I have 5 later today. Like this week I've already booked, for this week I have 32 lessons. And this weekend I fly out to a camp in Arkansas that I'm helping work. So I'm consistently booking 30 lessons a week now. And I mean, that's just crazy. My goal is 40 for a 40-hour work week, but like the amount that it's grown and how quickly is just, it's insane. It feels like I'm still playing softball right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I think once people heard that someone as your caliber was giving lessons, it kind of it spreads like wildfire pretty quick.
Yeah, it happened fast. Like within 2 weeks, I went from like 12 to like 24. Very, very, very fast.
How would you describe your coaching personality if you had to kind of describe it?
A lot like how I play. Pretty stern. Pretty. I mean, I can be kind of loose, but I take it very seriously. So maybe a little intimidating. Some of my parents and kids tell me that, but definitely like, hey, come on, let's go. I want them to get what they pay for. I really want them to get stuff out of it. I want them to get a lot of reps, but quality reps. So, I mean, I've got to stay on them because some of these kids, they're young, of course. I mean, that's just kids, but they let you, if you let them go a little bit, they're going to go wild. So, I mean, I got to stay on them. So I think it's pretty tough.
COVID-19 has been crazy. Seasons have been shut down. What kind of advice do you give to kids who lost a season this year, or especially high school seniors that don't get a year back and they're just going through it right now? What kind of advice do you give to those kids?
Focus on the next goal. Focus on the next goal. If you're still playing, if you're lucky enough that you get to continue playing, you can either use this time right now to sit around and get worse, but there's going to be another kid who's working right now. So you can either use this time to sit around on your butt, or you can get up and you can get better. I've noticed a lot of kids, I think that's why it's gotten so much bigger for me, is because a lot of kids are choosing to get up and work right now. So I think, does it suck that this happened? Of course, yeah, it really sucks. I mean, I'd still be playing right now if it wasn't for Corona, I think, but whatever. But But I mean, a lot of kids are really taking the initiative to get up and go ahead and do it. And I think that's awesome. There's always next season. There's always next season. For some kids, there aren't. And if that's the case for you and you're a kid who's not able to continue to play, my heart goes out to you. But also there's life outside of softball. And that was hard for me to figure out. But there's a life outside of softball, and you're so much more important than just a softball player. Like, there's so much more to you than just being able to swing a bat. So if I were you, I'd look really hard within myself to find those qualities and pick something to do it.
That right there, I mean, you said it, softball is not your identity. When did that Eureka moment happen for you, where you kind of figured out that you were more than a softball player?
Oh my gosh. That moment has kind of faded in and out over time. You know what I mean? Like, there are times where I struggle and I'm like, God, I'm not just a softball player. Like, you know what I mean? But then when I'm doing good, I'm just like, Keeli Milligan, the softball player. That's my problem. You know what I mean? Like, I do that to myself. But now I think it's been lately, because I'm looking for things where I actually have time to like do the things I enjoy and things I didn't even realize I enjoy. Like, you know what I mean? I listen to a lot more podcasts. I get to read a lot more books. I get to be around my family a lot more. And I didn't think it was possible, but my relationship with my family and friends has just like flourished recently. So I realized, like, these people love me not because I can swing a bat. Like, they love and care about me because they think I'm fun to be around. They think I'm funny. They enjoy me. You know what I mean? So recently, a lot of that has happened where I'm like, I think about softball less and less, and I realize, like, I have people in my life that don't like me because I can play softball.
Now that quarantine has kept us in the house for a few months, what's been your favorite kind of quarantine at home hobby or thing that you've been doing since you've been stuck at home?
God, I wish it wasn't eating, but wow, it's been a lot of eating. Cooking. I mean, I like to cook a lot, so it's been kind of cooking lately.
What's worse, the freshman eating or the Corona eating? Which one got you worse?
Corona. Oh my God. Corona eating. I'm like, wow. Okay, calm down, Keeli. But the lessons have helped me a lot, because not only with I don't do just lessons. Like, I do a lot of speed and agility workouts, and with my lessons, I work out with them. So I get a lot of my workouts in. So it's been fine. But a lot of podcasts. I've been able to spend a lot of time. So I mean, relationships in the past, I couldn't spend a lot of time with them because of softball. Like we're both very busy with college students, whatever. But now I'm able to spend a lot more time with my boyfriend, of course, his family, with my family. I see my parents constantly, all the time. Have a lot of time to work. I work a lot, so I mean, just I think things that normal adults are able to do, and I'm really enjoying it.
Adulting. It's happened.
No, it really is though. But people say they hate it, and I kind of love it. Like I love this part of my life, you know.
Do you think that's because you spent so much of your life not being able to quote unquote adult because softball took up so much of your time as a college athlete and even as an athlete trying to get recruited in high school?
Yes, yes. But then again, I felt like I was adulting, I guess, because I felt like softball was a job. And I'm not saying that in a way of like I hated it, but you have to perform. Like you have to show up, you have to perform. And then it's a job you have to take home with you. Like you got to do your research, you got to eat well, you got to make sure you're sleeping, you got to take care of your body. So, I mean, you've got to do all those things. So I felt like I was adulting hard in college and in high school. And now I get to be like kind of fun time Miss Keeli. And that's kind of what I'm doing now. So
Different types of adulting, right?
it's weird. It's really weird. You would think this is a time where like, oh, I'm working. But I mean, I literally get to go and do softball every single day as a job. That's awesome. That's awesome. But it's not me who I'm worried about succeeding. It's my kids now.
If you had to kind of set a 5-year goal for Keeli Milligan, or maybe if you don't think that far in the future, maybe a 1-year goal, where do you kind of want to see yourself doing in maybe a year or two?
So I just bought a house actually in North Vider. So it's got a nice big backyard. I'd like to eventually set up some type of facility. Hopefully by the beginning of next year, I'd love to have like my own facility in the backyard. So I've kind of been looking at things like that. A full schedule, a 100% absolutely full schedule of clients that I'm continuously working with. On a not guessing basis, we absolutely know what we're doing, and I have a full 40-hour work week. That's pretty much my goals right now are definitely centered around my job. And I'd love to go back to school. I don't have my degree yet, honestly. I'm supposed to go back to A&M at some point. I mean, I only need like a couple I'm eligible for my Aggie ring and everything. I just haven't ordered it. Semesters left, but with how my job and everything is going right now, that just doesn't even make sense to me at the moment. And I understand people are like, come on, Keely, like you're crazy, whatever. But like, if only you knew how things were right now and in a good way, you would understand where I'm coming from. Like this is really something, I think what I'm sitting on right now is something I can really build on and make last. So I'm trying to do that right now while my name is still a little bit, relevant in the softball world. And school can come later. School will always be there, school will always be there. So at some point I'd love to go back, whatever, but I'm really not rushing it. Whenever it's convenient, I'll do that. So next 5 years, that's the long-term plan, is finish school. But then I'm going to finish school and continue to do exactly what I'm doing right now. So that's kind of why that's pushed back.
Do you think you could see yourself as a team coach?
No, I hate team. I really like player development and working one-on-one with kids. Like I love that. But as far as like managing games, like, first of all, respect to all coaches, because I did not realize how hard that was. That is hard. Like, that's hard work. Like, recruiting, managing teams, and that's another thing. Like, when I talk about softball and that being a job, and it's like a 24-hour, that's a 24-hour kind of job. Like, you got to make sure you're eating, all that stuff. You have to do the same thing coaching. Like, you're recruiting constantly. You're emailing constantly, all kinds of things all the time. So you've got to make sure that you're like on the ball. I get a lot more free time with what I do now, and I think I enjoy it more than I would coaching.
Thank you so much for joining us this week. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice. And we definitely appreciate you squeezing us into your big schedule, and we hope to talk to you soon and see what great things you do.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for having me. I hope we were able to talk again.